Hello, welcome back to another edition of Road Talk with Cade. Today in my life is December 26th, 2025. Well folks, we made it to the last show of the year. I've been thinking about making this video since the flight home from Germany. I was satisfied with what I had accomplished this year by early October. 2025 has no doubt been the year of Cade. In this episode, we're going to discuss my current state of work life, the goals/resolutions that I set for myself last January, all the trips I went on, and much, much more. Starting with work. For those of you who have been following along, I mentioned many times the 10-year plan of moving to the East Coast, then the West Coast, then to Europe for a while. Well, I think it is fair to say that we can throw that idea in the trash. Not because I wouldn't want my life to continue in that direction, but because of work. When the thought of that plan developed, I thought it was going to take me 10 years of sales experience before I'd be offered the opportunity to travel for a living. So I was going to use my home residence as a base while I did my exploring. Thanks to some good old nepotism, I am very fortunate to have acquired my dream job at the youthful age of 24. I'm the luckiest man alive. I feel blessed every single day that I get to wake up and travel the country the way I do for a living. Acquiring my current employment, I think, was the first step in propelling my year to being so great. The travel perks I receive through work make personal travel much easier, allowing me to reach all of my planned destinations for 2025 and then some. Having this job may have turned my year and the future of my life in a different direction than I had planned on. Life is a long journey that takes you where you're supposed to go, and I'm happily wandering down that path. So with me staying in Nashville for the time being, let's look back over the past year and reflect on what a beautiful year it has been. Starting with the goals and New Year's resolutions that I had set for myself at the beginning of the year, oh so long ago. The first resolution on my list was to go to the gym 5 days per week. Looking back at my calendar, I missed 19 of the 260 Monday through Friday workouts I had planned, as long as I don't miss any more days this year. Most of the days I missed were due to long travel days or vacation days where I was unable to access a gym. That number I wrote down already includes missing Christmas Eve and Christmas Day at the end of the year, which is still good for making 92.7% of my workouts on weekdays throughout the calendar year, a number that I'm very impressed with. I have struggled for so long to stay consistent with my workouts, but a quarterly changing schedule in college made it impossible for me to stick to a plan. So I feel a lot of growth with the fact that between the job change, it didn't hinder my efforts at all. On top of that, I have gained at last check 31 pounds this calendar year, most of which I believe to be muscle, going from 167 pounds on New Year's Day to 198 pounds on the afternoon of December 17th. With the percentage of workouts being above 90% and the way I feel about my body, I would say this resolution was a success. The second resolution I had was to have less than 4.5 hours of screen time, down from 5.5, which I set for myself the year prior. For reference, this resolution is only my personal phone screen time. I cannot give factual data on how well I did at this, as it was not something I tracked data-wise the entire year. I know from checking it here and there that the first half of the year I was between 4 hours and 4.5 hours of screen time per day. Then after I made the decision to remove social media from my phone, that average screen time dropped to about 2.5 hours of viewing time per day, which I think is a great success. Even though I towed the line for most of the first half of the year, my success later in the year will chalk this one up as 2 for 2 on my New Year's resolutions. The third was no phone in bed at night. This resolution took up a great root at the beginning of the year. Well, in dry January, I was eating very healthy and making sure to go to bed at the same time every night. That consistent and natural bedtime allowed me to break this habit rather easily. By the start of February, I was so used to falling asleep without scrolling on my phone that it really just carried me through the rest of the year. I had a few hiccups when I started my new job, as being in a hotel room is different than being in your own bed at night. Once I got used to traveling on the road, the urge to scroll dissipated, and by the time I deleted social media off my phone, there was nothing there to look at anyways. A guy can only open up his phone so many times checking his email app before he'll lose interest in the device altogether. Yes, that is still my most opened app today. How sad is that? Still though, that makes me 3 for 3. Next up on my resolutions for 2025 was no nicotine, with one caveat that I could have a celebratory or victory cigar when the time was right. Including that caveat, I have not caved once to a vape. I have had nicotine on 3 total occasions this year. 1 cigar with my friend in New Orleans for the boys' college football trip. 1 cigarette and a few rounds of snus at Oktoberfest in Germany. Then I had a Swisher Sweet after we harvested my deer. All 3 were for celebratory purposes, and for that I will chalk this up as another success. To reflect on this resolution, I stated in January that nicotine as a habit did not really seem worth it to me, as the first 10 seconds of the buzz feel good. Then anytime I do it after that, it makes me feel sick. It turns out that being around it all the time is really no fun either. It does feel good to play the moral superiority card over your friends for my own enjoyment. But all in all, smoking or vaping casually doesn't really hurt anybody, while at the same time providing people with a small sense of relaxation or comfort that they may be seeking. So do what makes you happy, because everyone knows the hardest thing to do on this planet is to be consistently happy with yourself and your life. With the 4 resolutions that I had set for myself completed, I can say that I have succeeded on the front to perform everything that I said I was going to do this year. Now, a year later, reflecting on the past year provides me with a great sense of accomplishment, knowing that I can hold myself accountable over the span of an entire year. Moving down the list, let's discuss my goals that I set for myself in 2025. The first goal that I set for myself to accomplish was to read more books than I had the previous year. The number to beat was 5. I have already finished 6 books this year, with my 7th well on the way to be completed before December 31st. The title of the books I read in order are The Passchendaele Campaign 1917, A Guide to Historical Architecture of Western North Carolina, Cicero, Of the Nature of Things by Lucretius, The Kaufman Mercantile Guide, Gallipoli, and finishing off the year with Sword over Richmond, An Eyewitness History of McClellan's Peninsula Campaign. All books revolving around military history, the Roman Empire, and architecture, with one outlier. The Kaufman Mercantile Guide is more applicable to everyday life, teaching you things like how to properly care for a cast iron, or how to grow your own vegetables. The commonality resonates between all the books I read, as I prefer my reading to help me either broaden my mind of the surrounding world, teach me a better perspective on life, or give me applicable skills for my future. I'm very happy with the reading I've done throughout the year. Another success when it comes to completing my goal, but my consistency of reading has waned in the recent months, something I am hoping to improve upon in 2026 when my life goes back to a more normal routine after the holidays. My hiking goal for 2025 was to hike 300 miles for the year, which was almost double what I did in 2024. When I first made this goal, I thought it to be rather ambitious. I currently sit at 520 miles in the year, so it turned out that I wasn't nearly ambitious enough. Since moving to Asheville, the more time I've spent in the woods, the better my life has gotten. The time on the trail has provided me a form of meditation, where I can clear my head from all the thoughts I carry with me, or if need be, think through the more complex parts of my life. I have fallen in love with the trails that meander up and down the mountains. This is my most prized accomplishment. I look forward to many more miles on the trails, this year and beyond. The biggest trip I took this year was my first ever adventure to Europe, to celebrate Oktoberfest in Munich, Germany. For the past 3 years, I've been teaching myself German through the app Duolingo. With that trip, I wanted to up my efforts on the app to best prepare myself to speak in their native tongue. Throughout the calendar year, I have missed 18 days at the time of recording. For measures, if I miss 2 more days with my holiday travel coming up, that would equate to 345 of the 365 days where I did at least 1 lesson in German. 94.5% of all total days, which I am really impressed with. It is a routine for me to do my lesson right away in the morning, and the only days that I remember missing for the most part were due to an early travel schedule that threw off my routine. Still another goal that not only did I accomplish, but also got to physically apply my skills in person when I was abroad. One last note about this accomplishment is a couple months ago, I hit the 1,000 day mark of keeping my streak alive of doing my Duolingo lessons and not missing 2 days in a row. So all in all, this goal was another success of my year. The last goal or resolution that I successfully completed, with one caveat, was my travel goal for the year, which was to visit 5 new states and 1 new country in 2025. Well, I made it to 4 new states and 2 countries this year, which I think is fair to even out, because it is a lot harder for me to visit a new country than it is a new state. The new states I visited were Louisiana, Mississippi, Kansas, and Oklahoma. The new countries I visited were Germany and Austria. We will get more into this year's travel after we discuss my one failure of the year, which was that I did not accomplish my goal of doing 90 days stone cold sober. I did complete my dry January, which is an impressive feat in itself, but the total 90 days to start my year was something I never got back on the wagon from after my dad visited in the beginning of February. Alas, I set out in January with 9 goals for myself, and I successfully, in my eyes, completed 8 of them, which is pretty damn good. A worthy attempt at bettering my life over the course of a year, from improving my health to diving deeper into my interests. These goals not only challenged me, but taught me many lessons about myself that I hope to use as guidance over the rest of my life. Oh, the places I've been through this year, sharing some highlights and lasting memories from all those adventures. Starting with my extensive travel this calendar year, I spent 91 days in a hotel throughout the course of 2025, which is somehow less than I'll be traveling next year and beyond. As well as my insane amount of hotel stays, I managed to spend 43 days back home in Wisconsin, allowing me plenty of quality time spent with family and friends, attending 3 weddings, enjoying time up north on the boat with my dad and brothers, and sharing beers with my friends and family to celebrate my homecoming on the regular occasions. Over the entirety of the year, I went on 6 different personal trips, not counting the adventures going home, ranging from weekend trips to Knoxville or Wilmington in the first half of the year, to then pack all of my long-distance travel into a short 3-month window, reaching as far out as Austria and Germany. Below, I have a bulleted list of my highlights for 2025. Snowboarding for the first time since I went to high school. Fishing with hail. Surfing for the first time in my life, something I've been wanting to do for as long as I've been alive, as far as I remember. My Uncle Jeff coming down for a second motorcycle trip since I moved to Asheville. Trying all sorts of Cajun food around the state of Louisiana with my buddy Sam. Attending 2 different concerts in one night, seeing Hazlitt and Ethan Reagan, while attending 10 concerts as a whole throughout the year. The entirety of my adventure to Oktoberfest. To add on to the highlight of that trip was seeing the car that Franz Ferdinand was shot in, which, interestingly enough, the license plate on the front of that car is the same day that the war ended, which is a really, really weird fun fact and a good way to circle the whole thing together when it comes to World War I. I went to 4 college football games this year. I got to see Sam Barber on Halloween night. And then lastly, shooting the buck of a lifetime and getting to share that experience with my brothers and my father to make a memory that I will be able to hold close to my heart forever. With all those highlights listed, 2025 really has been my year. As I sit here today with the privilege to reflect on how this year went for me, I wouldn't change a single thing. The ebbs and the flows, from the highs to the highs to the lows to the lows, this year has provided me with more than I could have ever asked for. To leave you with one final sentence for what this year has meant to me. My heart is filled with gratitude that all the struggles God had put in front of me previously were gifts in disguise to let me see a day that I thought they only wrote in the movies. With all that being said, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, I love you, goodbye.